The original System Shock is one of the coolest and most innovative games to come out of the early DOS first-person shooter era. It was by the guys who did Ultima Underworld, which was a really old first-person dungeon crawler, but this game kind of refined a lot of the ideas in that game and made it a lot more playable and immersive. I really like this intro cutscene here. It's by Looking Glass Studios. They did this, they did System Shock 2, they did Ultima Underworld, and they did Thief. They were a really neat studio. I think they went under early on. I think they got absorbed into their parent company Origin, and that got absorbed into, I think, EA. It's a shame that, as far as I can tell, there's no easy way to purchase this game legally online. It's not on GOG. It's definitely not on Steam. I think the second System Shock finally went on Steam recently, and I'm looking forward to playing that after I get a little more into this game. Yeah, there's a lot that's really interesting about this game, and especially considering its age. It's got pretty much a continuous exploration world, kind of like Metroid Prime, or I'd say like Deus Ex, but even Deus Ex was a little more divided into actual levels. This game is really slick in how it combines the whole world together in a really neat way, and this part of the intro is awesome. Silent protagonist, you wake up, and obviously a lot of it's kind of familiar now. You wake up in the space station, the computer's gone nuts and killed everyone, and there's a resistance and data logs all strewn about, but this was really neat probably when it came out. Because, games like Ultima Underworld were very heavily reliant on NPCs and the like. And this game has no live NPCs. It's much more focused on just finding logs. And oh my god, that's a lot of information all at once. Alright, the HUD isn't very intuitive all at once. So first thing I do is switch over to the full screen mode, which is a lot nicer. Another important thing to realize is that the HUD is symmetrical in some ways. The bottom left-hand and right-hand corner show the same information. It's just you can open two different menus of that kind. It's kind of unnecessary. Probably could have just moved the middle one to the right and been fine, but this came from an era before mouse look, so the controls are naturally a little less intuitive. Let's see. A and D turn left and right. S and X move forward and backward. Z and C strafe left and right. Q and E lean left and right. W straightens you out. R and V look up and down while F centers the view. And T is standing, crouching, G is crouching, and B is crawling. Use the function keys to hide and show the weapon, item, automap, target, and data screens in the bottom left and right hand corner. And use the number keys to activate cyberware, and the spacebar to jump. Simple. So obviously it's a little more complex than Doom, but that's pretty much the only thing that's really hard to get into about this game, is that the control scheme is awkward and the heads-up display is really intrusive. But aside from that, this is a really, really cool game. I love the dynamic lighting. I love the actual 3D environments as opposed to Doom. You already saw one of the cyber logs we find. The antagonist is Shodan, and the game does a great job at kind of making you feel her presence around the space station. Oh, still being attacked. Apparently, they wanted to implement 3D polygonal models, but they ran out of time, so they just went with sprites like in Doom. There we go. I turned off the little help data, so that makes the HUD a little less intrusive. So you can have the same thing on both sides, which is just silly. Yeah, the System Shock 2 simplified a lot of this, but it's still pretty complex. And then Bioshock simplified it further, probably to its detriment. But I don't play too many DOS. I want to play more DOS RPGs in general. I don't know how much you'd classify this as an RPG and how much first-person shooter, but whatever. there's so many cool games that came out of that era that I haven't really sunk much time into because they're not really my kind of games, in the sense that I like games like Mario 3 or Mega Man 2 that are very polished and simple and, you know, kind of perfect, whereas most old DOS games are very unintuitive, very hard to get into, and they only become rewarding as you sink more time into them. Here's one of the things we find from the main character. That's why it's not voiced, just because silent protagonist, I suppose. So I guess the implication is that you wake up with a little bit of amnesia. So we have our lead pipe. We're not shooting yet, but we'll get a gun soon enough. Oh wait, I already have a dart gun. Excellent. Let's destroy the security cameras. That lowers the security level and improves things all around. Let's listen to this next log.
Shodan security is closing down.
This guy's voice acting is a little weird, but oh, message from Shodan. Yeah, Shodan is a great villain. I really can't wait to play System Shock 2 and see how they deal with her further. And I really want to finish this game, but it's very long. It's like, especially if you don't deal a walkthrough, you have to really go through each of these gigantic. I think there's 8 different levels, and they're all gigantic. There's a lot of different space to this game, and oh yeah, one of the logs says the code is 451. Oh, let's take care of that mutant. And oh yes, and all the environments are actually really varied too, so it's really neat. It's a big improvement over what I played of Ultima Underworld, which is a lot less intuitive. There wasn't a full screen mode, and I also just like the sci-fi horror story and aesthetic way more than the fantasy of Ultima Underworld. But yeah, DOS games. There are a few sleek, more intuitive games for the games. Like Doom isn't complex. Prince of Persia and Out of This World are also pretty easy to get into for console people like me, but I definitely want to try to play more of these kind of games. Like Ultima 4 is really interesting. System Shock. And then the later PC games that are still really complicated, like Deus Ex, but Thief. I guess it just kind of comes down to the kind of person you are. I just have fallen way more naturally into the Marios and the Zeldas, where everything is where everything can be done with 2 buttons and a D-pad. But I try to expand my horizons, so I'm looking forward to playing more of these games, even if they don't really have a lot of my design aesthetics. Alright, Skull. That's nice. You can see the map down in the corner, so we're just looking around, exploring. That's just how this game works a lot of the time, although if you're paying attention, then you pick up big hints on what you're supposed to do, and it's not too hard to do so. Crate full of skulls, crate with hand grenade, crate with soda can. I probably shouldn't have picked that up. This game has a bunch of worthless items all strewn about, which is always fun. For some reason, gotten way more into this game than other later PC RPGs like Fallout 3 or Skyrim. Maybe it's just the hipster in me likes playing the old game more, or because it's cooler, or I don't know. I haven't actually played very much of Skyrim. I just watched my brother play it. For some reason, those games just don't appeal as me much. I just really like how this game starts off and how everything just kind of unfolds naturally. And obviously the data log thing has gotten kind of old over the years. Just, let's see, System Shock 2, the Bioshocks, Doom 3, and Dead Space. Every game does that nowadays, and now it's just more of a crutch. Whereas in this game, the data logs were born out of necessity. But I feel like nowadays people are just relying on them because it's easy, as opposed to finding more creative ways to tell their stories. There's so much interesting about this game, especially in comparison with Ultima Underworld and games of its ilk, because, well, it strips the dungeon crawling experience down so much. There's no NPCs, there's no like money system. There's not really as much distinction between plot and exploration, which I like. So once you get past the heads-up display and the controls, there's a whole lot to really enjoy here. And I definitely want to sink more into it in the future. I think I got to like level 4 a couple years ago before I accidentally deleted my file. So I picked it back up again because I wanted to pick a cool game that fit jumping and shooting. It was either this or some other old DOS platformer. Oh, here's a cool new texture change too. Oh. And then there's a grating up there that leads into that you can see from the next area. So it's just another cool way that all the environments just kind of overlap in really interesting ways. And part of that, they wrote a whole new engine for this game after Ultima Underworld, and the 3D environments are really interesting here and how it kind of uses the 3D. I really do like Doom a lot, and I like Doom because it's appeals to that simplified. Oh god, this guy killed this guy. Run, eep. Let's apply some medic patches. That's a good thing I didn't die because I haven't saved. I use the stem up, but that doesn't actually help. I'll use the medi patch. You can see the map kind of filling in, but this is still like, I don't know, less than a quarter of the first level of 8, and you have to go, and you don't just go from one level to the next and that's the end of it. All the levels could be revisited and interesting things go on as it heads along. More audio logs. Oh good, I think I have time to show the cyberspace minigame, which happens rarely enough that it's not really too annoying. More things. It's really important to poke around the environments here because they don't always hide. They don't want to always keep things in open spaces like, oh, there's the medical access card just tucked away in the corner. I think that might be necessary to progress in the game. Anything else in the room? I don't think so. Alright, let's go into cyberspace. Alright, here the controls are a little simpler. It's just WASDX. The vibrating blocks are programs. Recall pulls you out of the cyberspace, I think. I'm not sure I've jumped yet, but rest assured you can jump. There is, in fact, jumping and shooting. Alright, I think I've cleared out this room, so let's head down in here. I guess the way you'd characterize DOS RPGs and DOS games in general is that they're more slow burns than the NES games, which are more instant gratification. NES and SNES games of the era. You really do need to sink time into these games to appreciate what they have to offer, and there's definitely value to that. There we go, I got the pulsar, which is just the mouse click, obviously. So yeah, the only thing that really makes this game dated is just the lack of mouse look, which forces the control scheme to be so convoluted. Aside from that, it's totally playable and awesome. Really recommend seeking it out. Let's see if we can get out of cyberspace here. Alright. I like these little segments because they're kind of swept along. The logic of these areas is kind of weird, but I dig, and I like the wireframe look, so it's neat. Whoa! It's interesting to compare with like hacking and Bioshock and Bioshock 2. I don't think there was hacking in the new one. I haven't played it yet. Alright, let's see. The whole point we came in here for was to was to open up the medical bay doors, and that's done. Alright, and now let's just head for the exit. See, easy to get nauseous playing this game. And go. Alright. Thanks for watching. See you next week.